Hello, everyone. I'm Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. And first, I want to say welcome to all my new subscribers. I have to say, Ethan has a lot of pull. So he mentioned me on his show, and I was very flattered. Had some really nice things to say. So thank you, Ethan, for that. And that led to a whole bunch of new subscribers. So welcome. And hope you enjoy it. So today we're going to be talking about representation in media. Now, it kills me that if you bring up this conversation on Twitter, you'll keep getting people that deny that there is an agenda in comics. To me, it's plainly obvious. And I think to probably most people that watch my channel, it's incredibly obvious. But others are just willfully pretending it's not happening. Or they don't read comics. That's possible too. Big long Twitter thread here, and this kind of thing comes up over and over. Can you give an example of this happening in a comic, or preferably many examples, if every comic book you read does it? So first off, a little bit of a straw man. Not every comic book does it. I've mentioned before that I have enjoyed reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there's no overt political themes. Now, there are universal themes or global themes, themes where people are feeling alienated or family or good versus evil. There are all sorts of themes like that you could read it and you could look through it through your own life experience. And, if you want to see the X-Men as being about, LGBTQ oppression, you certainly can find that. If you want to read X-Men and be thinking about what it's like to be an immigrant in a foreign land, then you could certainly find things to relate to there. There's a big difference between that. Those are universal themes that people are able to find their own ways they connect through their own life experience. And then there's explicitly saying what you should gain from this comic. That is something totally different. So the reason why this to me seems so disingenuous is because at the same time, there are a lot of people that are just crying out for superhero representation. So I found this little video. Yeah, I'm just going to play a little bit and we'll talk about it.
Men must accept women as human beings and not sex objects.
While the 90s was a brighter time for male anti-heroes, it was a decidedly darker time for their female counterparts.
When you see the sexualization of female...
It was so dark, decidedly dark. I'm going to say right now, you're going to see a whole lot of Rob Liefeld in here.
Male characters in mainstream superhero comics really take off is the 1990s, and there are a number of reasons for why it happened at that time. Most of the comic writers and artists are male, and also mostly white.
Okay, so again, this comes up a lot. Comic book writers are white and male. Okay. There are a lot of reasons why in the 90s there were white male comic book writers and artists. That's because a lot of these comics, the comics that they're talking about, were made in America, and there are a lot of white people in this country. Now, I don't want anybody to confuse what I'm saying. I think I don't care what color you are, if you have an interest in writing or drawing comics, I support you 100%. I think that is awesome. I don't think the color of your skin should affect how you get work, and it shouldn't affect the quality of your work, anything. That's cool. Nobody should confuse that. What I am saying is that this is the ideological trail that leads to other thoughts. So if she's saying that the problem is that there are too many white straight men that are writing comics, the way that you fix that, then the root of the problem is the white straight man. So what you need to do is get less white straight men. Now, no one's going to word it that way. They're going to say we need more minorities. And that's, again, hey, if you can write a comic, I don't care what color your skin is. That's awesome. Do whatever you can. I don't care if you're a woman. I personally have hired a few female artists because they were amazing artists. I was looking at the art, and I wanted my money to be well spent. They were the best for the job because of the art. But this trail of thinking leads to other ends.
And the fan base had become that in large part as well. you have the loosening of the comics code in 19...
Okay, so she glossed over something, and that is the fan base became that as well. The fan base became white men as well. The fan base was white men. Comics have been around for a very long time, and it wasn't just in the 90s that it became, white straight men. The reason why you had so many white straight men in the 90s writing comics is because white straight men grew up before the 90s reading comics. They were comics readers. So yeah, they wanted to do it. So it to me, it's not a logical stretch. I have a lot of problems with 90s comics, and I really don't want to be defending some of the, we'll get to it here, some of the stuff that I'm like, it's not my favorite about 90s comics.
1989, it no longer banned suggestive posing of women or exaggerated female characteristics, and you have a backlash against feminism.
Since her allegations against Thomas were made public, she has received several threats. It is worth having...
Okay, so two totally unrelated events. There's a backlash against feminism, and yet there's all of a sudden Rob Liefeld is everywhere in comics. There's so much happening in the world that you can't blame everything on. This is like blaming everything on video games for mass shootings. It's so much more complex than that. There's not cause and effect the way that these people want it to be.
The truth emerge. And when you put all of these elements together, you have hyper-muscular, hyper-athletic males, and you have hypersexualized females.
Fancy powers and big explosions and big 2-page spreads and...
Mark Waid shows up from nowhere. Mark Waid. Okay. Well, I make fun of this a little bit, but I want to say that there are fair criticisms of 90s comics. If your problem is the anatomy or the unnatural poses, or sometimes the poses are counterproductive to the storytelling. Yeah, I mean those are good. Those are good complaints. The problem I have is that your solution then is we need to adopt an ideology and weave it into comics, because that'll fix not only the comic books, but in turn it'll fix the readers. Because remember, they had just showed us that there was a backlash against feminism. And because of that, they're linking it to comics. And therefore, if they fix comics, they can fix us. They're trying to fix us. That is where I have a problem. I want you to entertain me, and I'm in charge of what I think and believe. I raise my children the way I want to. I don't want you trying to mold my mind. It's weird. Tell me a good story that makes me feel good, or makes me feel bad for that matter, makes me feel something. And you know what? Sometimes stories can make you change your mind or see people in a different light. But you don't just explicitly tell people what you're going to do. It's weird. So before we get into a little bit more, I want to do another free indie comic ad. This again for Mike Miller. So this is the 3-for-1. He's getting close. 70% looks like. And Shotgun Samurai, you get Meg, and Deal with the Devil. So 3 stories all in one. And we'll look at again. The art is amazing. If any of this interests you, if it looks cool, if you want to support indie comics creators, I would highly suggest checking this out. Another thing when it comes to representation in media, where it comes to studies with diversity, things like that, especially in academia, this is where all of this comes from. The reason why your comic book artists and writers are so heavily into social justice, or there's so many of them that are into it, is because often they'll go to liberal arts colleges, and in colleges they really push this kind of thing. And so I see this a lot. Inequality, 900 popular films, they'll throw around these reports. And the problem I have is that it's meant to look like it's a study. This isn't a study. It is counting numbers. It's bean counting, basically. But inequality in 900 popular films. So if this was a study, then you wouldn't have an intended outcome. This already has an intended outcome. They want to show you inequality, and so they've counted beans. And so, basically infographics, they're showing female directors, underrepresentation. They're even breaking it down: action or adventure, animation, comedy, the kinds of representation. The sexy stereotype plagues some females in film. All right. Well, there's also stereotypes are in films. Stereotypes are in storytelling. Stereotypes are bad storytelling. So I'm not going to defend it because it makes for boring stories unless it's intentional, like you're making fun of the stereotype, but that happens less. There are also stereotypes for men, straight white men, including, I see it a lot lately, the straight white men are the evil ones, or, you've got the bumbling dad in every sitcom that can't even zip up his own pants. Stereotypes they're bad writing, but to think that just to point out one stereotype, like that matters more than other stereotypes, to me, I think you're not going to get a full picture. Okay, now how could we forget? This is a little old, but give Captain America a boyfriend. This was a big trend on Twitter, and they're asking for it. They want there to be this supposed representation in comics, and so rather than building characters that make sense and it's part of who they are, having co-opting characters to fit the diversity that you're looking for, it just doesn't make any sense. And if we scroll down here, this was Chris Evans trying to make sense of it all. He says, that wouldn't be so bad. I think, speaking of Captain America being gay, Evans told Flickering Myth, it's just never been part of my approach to the character. My subtext didn't involve that dynamic. I think even the first Captain America films, you see how drawn he is to Peggy Carter. I think in that final scene when I'm putting that plane in the water, he's far more concerned with not getting to see her again than he is to give his own life. Yeah, exactly. This is part of storytelling. However, I feel like if I said the same thing on Twitter, like you want to have a gay superhero, write a gay superhero, do it. But it doesn't make sense to change one halfway through. People freak out. They lose their mind. Okay, so I keep getting asked for examples, and you know what? I don't like getting homework assignments from people to go find them examples that meet their needs. If you really are genuinely interested in finding out which comics are intentionally trying to weave in ideology and hit you in the face with it, it's not hard to find. Look for it. Google it. You'll find it. And here's just one example that you'll see if you Google it. Meaning it's a boy. It's got a thingy. And then here we go. You don't know anything about this species. You have no right to impose our stupid gender constructs on an alien. Okay, so I've heard people say, well, this is a joke. Okay, if it's a joke, what's the joke? What's funny? That there's shaming going on? Is that funny? Is it funny because this is a really stupid statement? In that case, Spider-Man should say, like, shut up, or, you know what I mean? There's got to be some kind of surprise. There's got to be something. So it's not a joke. Reciting your own ideology in, a flippant way, that doesn't make it funny. That's not how comedy works. And I hate that I have to be the one explaining this. I feel like writers know this. They know it's not funny. They're trying to slip in a line. It's a learning moment. It's not funny. Oh, here's another one. I don't want to read this whole thing, but we got Galactus. So if I'm talking to squirrels, he says he genders something, he or she. He, I guess he says. And then she says, or she. What? He or she who wields the power cosmic can shoot lasers out of his or her eyes. It's your language that lacks universally accepted gender-neutral third-person singular pronouns. Okay, so, and yeah, they want to make a better place. So this is couched in dialogue back and forth, and it's supposed to be, is this supposed to be funny? It's really just, you're stating your ideological point of view, and you're trying to make it flow as though there's a natural conversation happening. It's extremely contrived. This is bad writing. Where's the joke? Because it's not funny. It's just objectively not funny. It's become a gender studies lesson. It's like making a little cartoon for kids that's teaching them about white privilege or whatever. You've seen that one bouncing around. It's not funny. It's propaganda. And the thing is, it's insulting to us because anybody that reads this knows what's going on. The thing is, if you agree with it, you might say, oh, that was nice. It's almost like going to the church of social justice. You can go sit down on a pew, hear exactly what you want said, and you can just nod your head and agree. More likely, I think there's a lot of people that if they're into social justice, they read this and they think, yeah, that'll show them we're sticking it to the man, sticking it to that white man. Yeah, this makes no sense to me. Anyway, thank you for listening. I hope I made some sense there. There are a lot of problems. Tell me what you think about representation. When people ask for evidence, what's your best evidence to show them of annoying social justice comics? Let me know and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
Sweetcast. By the way, Sweetcast has a great YouTube channel. Everyone, seriously, should subscribe to it. I don't know who he is, but I've listened to 2 or 3 of his shows, of his videos, and he's extremely, extremely canny, very, very smart, very clever, and has great ideas for the future of Comicsgate. Like, he's actually sitting there pointing the way and saying, this is what I think. And then I watched a video he did today where he said, he wants to consider, joining Comicsgate, like actually producing a comic book. So that makes his super chat kind of poignant. His name is Sweetcast. So Sweetcast, one word, cast, C-A-S-T. It looks like his logo is like a red fan.
Right now.
The peppermint candy. Yeah, there he is. Really good stuff. So everyone should subscribe to his channel. I think he's only got like 100 and something subscribers right now. We should blow that up.
25, yeah. We need a bunch more.